So he's vintage. Are we keeping the evil in, or are we deciding to take it out? Here's your look at the new Mattel Masterverse, the vintage collection Zodak Cosmic Enforcer. In 1982, the Master Universe took the world by storm and captured imaginations from here to Eternia. Today, Masterverse celebrates the original designs in a modern execution as the Vintage Collection. This vintage design of the Cosmic Enforcer has glowing eyes, a laser blaster with blast effect, and translucent blue cosmic energy shield that fits into his hand and glows in the dark. Zodak's harness is removable and comes with 3 extra hands to allow multiple poses with and without weapons. I would have classed him a hero myself, but those monster feet do seem a bit sus. In a second from now, I'm going to bring in my tape measuring tool, and what we'll do is we'll see how tall the Vintage Collection Zodak stands. A few seconds after that, I'll bring in the other Vintage Collection figures we've collected thus far, and I'll also bring in some other examples of Zodak. I hope that all sounds fine to you guys. Oh, it does? Oh, delightful. As promised, though, the tape measure is going to tell us that the Vintage Collection Zodak stands at 7 inches in height, working out to be a figure that's 18 centimeters tall. I would have said that the figure that Zodak uses the most of the mold from is Vintage Collection Skeletor. But if you are a collector of Motu figures, you already know that. Zodak from the earliest days of the 83 would have already used the majority of Skeletor's body, complete with his monster feet. And even the original 83 card back actually listed him as evil. So it stands to, again, reason whether they actually are pushing that idea or not. I'll show you the back of the packaging. You can then decide for yourself. While this guy, of course, is using the same torso, the same arms, the fins on his forearms, the lower torso, and even, again, those said monster feet, he's completely different, though, when it comes to the body of He-Man. Well, I guess you could say somewhat of the same mold, even though really that He-Man has a 6-pack. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and telling you this way too early, but Zodak only sports a 4-pack. Here's also, again, like one, speaking of using the molds again, this was the Vintage Collection Faker. You're freeing up a whole lot of space. What's going on over here? I freed up the space, in case you were curious, just to bring in the new Eternia release of Zodak, which still is one of my favorite figures from the new Eternia line. And, of course, if you're going to have the conversation at all about Zodak, the conversation would have to, of course, include the Origins release of him as well. Don't be so quick to discard the packaging that contains Zodak. Located in the side tray, a little compartment space about yay big. You open that up, you'll find yourself a red baggie. You rip open the red baggie, and what you'll find are the contents over here. I want to just also interrupt my train of thought just to bring in the packaging that came included with Vintage Collection Zodak. In that, again, if you see him, wait a minute, what's going on here? He's shooting at Savage He-Man and Man-at-Arms. The description for Zodak says, in fact, Zodak attacks the heroic warriors using all the evil power at his command. So you can, of course, decide for yourself if you want to have Zodak being a good guy or a bad. Doesn't really necessarily change the fact we're going to be looking at the following accessories, but I did want to mention that too, because I know if I don't, I'm going to completely forget about it. I'm not going to forget again to tell you guys to open up the paper bag inside, because obviously it's going to have these few things. What it won't, though, have is his blaster. Now, I'm going to just grab the blaster here from the new Eternia release of him. It's a little bit bigger. It actually has a little less gray, but what it does do instead, though, is brings in some nice dark gunmetal gray. What's kind of also rather interesting, though, is the original blaster never had a trigger. They felt the need, obviously, if he's going to be firing at anybody, a trigger would certainly come in handy. So while the original one doesn't have that, the new one does. It does also have one thing new. There's a hole on the end of the nozzle, because Zodak has, with one of his contained accessories, a firing blast effect. The blast effect just attaches onto the end of his gun. Now he actually has pew pew, the means to firing this off at He-Man or Skeletor, again, just depending on whatever preference you have. Because he does also have, out of his clamshell tray, he has a trigger firing finger hand, then it makes things super easy to get the gun to his hands. Basically just put that in between his hand, and while not necessarily firing the trigger, he's hovering. He's getting pretty close. So really, though, technically he shouldn't really even have the blast effect on the end of his hands, but I think I'll give it a pass. What's really cool, though, is passing through the accessories that he also has inside that paper bag. You know the one I was telling you? Ripping it open, taking out all the insides, the innards of the turkey. One thing you'll find, though, is an energy shield. Now, the energy shield does technically glow in the dark. Not cutting, though, the lights. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to bring in my black lights. I'm going to make a few just a few passes across the plastic surface so you guys can see how that would illuminate if we had cut the lights. You're not going to cut the lights? I'm just going to have to let producer Tony know, you know, cutting all the lights. Don't be alarmed. We didn't go, you know, we didn't lose the power. It'd probably just be so much easier just to show you guys what that looks like with the black light. Okay. If you look at the back of the shield, you'll notice that there's a peg. Nowhere on the figure, as you'll see right now, will there be a place to store the shield. For all intents and purposes, there could really have been a hole right here, but if you look at the length of the peg, my God, man, that would have gone out the other end. Technically, I suppose you could have also had him gripping the hand that way, but it's not really going to work. What he does have instead, just give him a stand here for a second, he does also have a hand specifically with a hole. Oh, that's got to hurt. What they do instead is not so much a shield where he would hold it this way. What it is instead, though, is that the shield pegs into his palm. Think of it kind of similar to Dr. Fate. So you basically just dowel that in place, and now basically he's got himself a projection shield. And that would swap out on this side, which I'm glad that it is on this side and not on this side where you'd have to then be choosy. Oh, I really want the blaster. Oh, I really want the energy shield. Now at least you can have the benefit of both. To change out the hand, by the way, you're just going to hold on to the hand that he currently has. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. You don't really have to wiggle. You're just going to wiggle the hand of the figure and plug the new one. Now, you could do this without the shield obviously attached. You might find yourself doing it a little bit easier. Plug that in place. Make sure that's all the way onto his forearm. There we go. And now Zodak has himself a shield. That's cool. You got the blast on the one side, the ray gun on the one side, and then he's got his energy shield on the other. Well, you know, unfortunately, with all that happening, kind of really makes then the following hands null and void. He has a gripping hand. So again, I guess if you want to have the blaster on that side, you could do that. The figure does also have a closed fist. I can't ever really see myself displaying Zodak without the gun, so really for me, this is just going to go ultimately into a bag somewhere. Moving all the accessories, though, out of the way. The one unfortunate thing about Zodak is if you ever choose not to have him displayed with the shield, then he's going to have this unsightly hole in his hand. I guess you could kind of fake it a bit by just bringing his arm down. You'd be none the wiser to know that there's even a hole in there. Let's also take the blaster. Just put it off to the side. Okay, so getting a closer look at vintage collection Zodak. Whether you think he's evil or not, one thing though he is using the exact same body as Skeletor. Mentioned already that the arms are the same, the biceps, even the fins on his forearms, the lower legs, the monster feet, even really like the loincloth. So if we move Skeletor's armor out of the way, yeah, it is what seems to be the exact same loincloth. The armor is also something, too, that with all the other vintage collection figures you can detach. Basically, there's a little peg right here. Unpeg it. Bring the arms forward. You might even find that's a little easier to do. And then shimmy the armor off. I'm doing this one of two reasons why I'm taking this off. Is first, just to show you that the armor is detachable. But also show you, though, one issue I kind of really have with Zodak is the way they've given him the spray tan. It's not consistent. One thing that's also consistent when it comes to Zodak is his face is never the same color as the rest of his body. If you look at the Origins version of him, oh, hey, face is wrong. And even if you look at the New Eternia, which again would be probably the most recent release of Zodak, there's something always really wrong with the way they paint his face, and it's never a color that matches with the rest of his body. Well, this new Zodak has it too. The airbrushing of the spray tan, as you can see, is really only in the tops of his shoulders. It's a little less suggested here in the torso and the abdomen, not really making much of an appearance in the forearms, and nowhere down below here in his legs. If they spray as much here, I'd hope, though, that they'd also spray other places on his body as well. And I would hope that by now we would discover, I mean, come on, Mattel. At what point do we decide, like, we got to really start painting Zodak's face the same colors as the rest of his body? We're now 3 for 3. I don't have the original vintage figure. I think if I did, it would be doing the same. So let's go ahead and get his armor back in place. Let's put the figure down here for a second. The armor is a kind of a softer plastic. It's got more of a sheen to it as well. I don't know if they would ever release this, and I know it's not Wonder Bread He-Man. I know we've debunked that over the years. But if they ever wanted to obviously recast this mold again, they would give us, you know, they'd give us a brown armor and give us a new He-Man with that. Putting on the armor again is just super easy. We're going to just slide this up his forearms. Just like that. You don't even really have to take his head off at all. There we go. And we'll just flip it around to the back and peg it into place. Generally, I'm not so easy when it comes to swapping out or taking off armor, because I always really think it's going to be a hard thing to get back in place. Zodak's armor isn't that hard at all. Okay, so like again, like the spray paint is a little irregular in some of the areas. You see a lot more of it on the top of his body. It really almost kind of even seems like the person that had the spray can went shh, flipped the figure over, shh, and then just kind of left everything else behind. I mean, I'm sure there is a little bit of paint. There clearly is, but it's not at the concentration level that we get here for the shoulders or the top of his torso. Head sculpt looks good. I know we've kind of passed over that in favor of looking at the rest of the figure's body. For a while, really, I did like the new Eternia. Oh, I just dropped my black light. The new Eternia version of Zodak really does have a nice head sculpt. I almost kind of feel like he's got the better head sculpt. He's got, though, the better color. I like the darker gray a little bit more. This one didn't also have it. They just went in there and painted the goggles essentially in black. Here, what they've done instead, if you look at it just with the light hitting it, they've put translucent lenses over top of it. While you wouldn't really necessarily be able to make out eyes inside, at least, though, the translucency of goggles makes you feel, though, that he's wearing a helmet and it's not just a mask. Yeah, again, for the rest of the body, it's pretty much those Skeletors. There's not much really that has been changed. The monster feet are exactly the same. You know, again, like the loincloth is the same. And because of that, the figure has the same levels of posability. Zodak's head is on a ball joint, so it allows the head to rotate all the way around. The head's going to look up. Only by just a little bit. To say it goes back a bit, I mean, bit being the obvious word. The head goes down a lot more, though. But when you do move the head down, it feels like he wants to spring back up. Head rocks only back just a little bit. More so the rotation is where you're going to really benefit from the ball joint here. Arms rotate all the way around. Those arms, in fact, also hinge out at a T-pose or 90 degrees. Same thing with Skeletor. Same thing with He-Man. Same thing with Faker. Bicep swivel is there as well. Double hinge on the elbow. To say, though, a double hinge, I mean, there's not much really. You can't get the full benefit of a double hinge when there's that much of a bicep and there's that much of a forearm muscle. Hands rotate, though, all the way around, whether you want to use these hands or not. They hinge back and forth. The upper torso is going to be on a ball joint in theory, because you really can't do all that much with his armor in place. You do a lot more, though, when it comes to the waist swivel, as he certainly has that. The legs do split out. They're on ball joints. You can take the legs and move forward. Full kick there, and back as well. Walking our way 3/4 way up the thigh, there's a swivel cut, so it allows the leg to rotate all the way around. There's a double hinge on the knee. Swivel there in the boots. Same with Skells. You can also move the feet up and down. There's a nice ankle rocker there as well. The things I like about Zodak, and I didn't even really talk about the fact the figure only has a 4-pack instead of the 6. Skeletor and Zodak seem to be sharing similar, obviously they're sharing similar bodies, but they're not, though, the same bodies as He-Man. And for that matter, really, not the same as Vintage Collection Faker, because again, like they're using the exact same bodies. Torsos are a little longer in these guys. These guys seem a little more shorter in proportions, and I'm not sure if that's something that they're going to be doing moving forward, because now we've seen it with 2 instances where a squatter Skeletor and now a squatter Zodak isn't really the same size or proportions, for that matter, as the Vintage Collection He-Man. And again, bringing the other examples of Zodak just because I had them on the ready. There's the new Eternia release of him, and here's also the Origins release. Colors are really pretty much kept the same. There are a few little things that I kind of like more with the Vintage Collection Zodak. I like the darker coloring of his helmet, though I like the shape, I think, a little bit more on this release. The armor is a little more classic on this version. He's got a lot more spray tan, but still we keep continuing to come across this obstacle. Why, oh why, when it comes to the paint department and it comes to coloring the color of the helmet of Zodak, can we never ever match the colors for the rest of his body? It happened with this guy. It happened with this guy, and it's happening again with the vintage release of him. I know the back of the packaging does say attacks the heroic warriors using all the evil power at his command. I think that's more a callback to the original 1983 card back, where Zodak was listed as evil. Obviously, since the release of the Filmation cartoon and all his subsequent appearances after the fact, Zodak really wasn't necessarily part of the Masters, but he certainly wasn't part of Skeletor's crew either. He was always sort of one that decided it down the middle. I'm not going to be deciding it down the middle when it comes to displaying this guy, being that we're really kind of 2 against 1. Skeletor already has his Faker. I think that He-Man rightfully should have Zodak as part of his team. Now, when it comes to his accessories, one of the things that he didn't come included with when it came to the vintage release was his Cosmic Energy Shield. A nice little included accessory. It's one, though, that definitely does need to have the hand. I mean, if he loses the hand, for example, that has the hole in the palm, then there's really no way that he can properly hold the shield. You can kind of have him holding it from the side as a real shield, but it just really isn't going to work. I like the head sculpt on this guy with the coloring. I still think, though, the new Eternia version of Zodak did it a little bit better. Still, though, I don't know what the issue is when it comes to painting this guy's face. I know I kind of said it too much in this review. I'll just kind of walk quickly over that subject again. The face seems still to be wrong. I mean, I don't know why Mattel just can't properly paint the face to match the rest of his body. But like the rest of the body for Zodak, he's a nice welcome addition to my collection. Funny though enough that Zodak is a hard figure to find. Most of the sites that generally list vintage, or for that matter Master Universe figures, tend not to list at all Zodak. I ended up picking up through a Canadian online site, and even then I had to wait weeks for this guy to arrive. But what do you guys think of Zodak? Let me know down below in the comments section. Are you one that tends to think of Zodak as a villain, basing it again on the original 83 card back, or you like to generally keep him as a hero? What do you guys think when it comes to Zodak? If you guys did also enjoy this video, tell me what you think of it by hitting it obviously with a like. And if you guys want to stick around for more so, and I hope so, there's going to be more videos obviously still coming your way for the rest of the week, so I'm hoping that you guys are going to be coming back for those. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.